you so much. Well, that was a very flattering introduction that I don't really think I deserve, but thanks for bearing with me. So, I guess when people conceptualize entrepreneurs, images of Silicon Valley emerge, of vast technology campuses and sprawling enterprises and conglomerates that really reach into every corner of the globe. But for me, the most inspiring entrepreneurs that I know aren't, they're not changing the world from an office in California or an office in Melbourne. They're on the ground in areas like Haiti, like Timor-Leste, like Vietnam. And they're identifying new problems, trying new ideas, and eventually finding new solutions. And it doesn't matter whether these entrepreneurs are microfinancing a school in Quai Bouquet in Haiti, or whether they're finding new markets for homemade apparel via Pinterest in Vietnam. They're actually part of a larger global shift in how social impact is facilitated, which is the rise of the social entrepreneur. And empowered by the digital sharing economy, I believe that Australians are uniquely positioned to capitalize on this trend and actually to lead the world in social ventures. So this is me at the age of 10 when I was in school, consistently the shortest kid in the class, in fact, probably the whole school. But I was determined to really capture opportunities as they came along, which in retrospect I think is a form of compensation for something. But at the time I was leading a double life, right? I was leading the school social justice arena through the student council at the same time as starting my first business. So a disagreement in the schoolyard over the comparative strength of different Pokémon, Charizard will always be the best, led to the founding of my first enterprise, which in fact just sold Pokémon posters. And these Pokémon posters are printed on mum and dad's printer and definitely violate some intellectual property laws after I studied that in university. But what my thinking was at the time was if I could capture the audience and the wider school audience via business, then I could use that engagement and use that model for larger social purposes. Now, unsurprisingly, it didn't work. Me, armed with my notepad and book and my backpack full of posters wandering around the school, didn't really provide the momentum that I needed to achieve any of my goals. But some of that thinking has stayed with me. What I was trying to do, even though I didn't realize it at the time, was build a social enterprise, to combine the best of the nimble nature of small business with the impact of social policy. And as I moved through university and high school, I sought out enterprises and tools which I thought could have a meaningful impact. And I ended up in a place that combines technology and community, business rigor, and social cause. So there are many definitions of what constitutes a modern social enterprise, but for me, this definition from the Harvard Business School neatly captures what I feel it is. So a social enterprise is an organization that uses commercial strategies to maximize human well-being. And this often includes maximizing social impact over profit for external stakeholders. So I guess there's a really good example of this, right? And there's an example of what exactly does a social enterprise do? And that's what I'd like to unpack today. So there are a few common characteristics that I perceive of a unique social enterprise and a successful social enterprise that then align with the Australian spirit. But before I delve into that, there's a second trend emerging which I'd like to discuss, which is having a monumental impact on how social innovation is created, which is the shift of power from hierarchy to individuals and citizens. So it will come as no surprise to anyone in this room that the tablet has replaced my humble pen and notepad from the schoolyard, that the mobile phone has replaced the landline, and that the internet has revolutionized how we connect and communicate. But the core of my story is not one of technological determinism. I don't believe for a second that these tools are the sole factor shaping our social and cultural values. But I definitely would argue that with the emergence of a globally connected landscape and new business models, there actually is new expectations and new opportunities for socially focused enterprises. So there's been a shift of power, one from hierarchies to individuals, to citizens, and networks of citizens, right? And so what it's done is it's gone from conglomerates to people picking up their devices. In the political sector, this is referred to as the new geopolitical system and geopolitical power. But in the business sector, this has resulted in what's known as the digital sharing economy. So it's what has enabled Facebook, a company that generates none of its own content, to become one of the largest media companies in the world. And there's a plethora of other examples. Zesty, a food company in California, despite owning no restaurants, is about to become one of the largest food providers in the United States. And this shift has absolutely been mirrored in the social sector. Oz Harvest, from right here in Queensland, despite owning no food shelters or food kitchens, has distributed millions of meals around Australia to not-for-profit organisations. So, what does a modern social enterprise do? Well, for me, they, one, identify the complexities of the problem to build a unique business model. Then two, they create and measure a meaningful impact. And finally, three, they find their superstar supporters, those who will help them build their brand and then spread their message. So there's a local example in Haiti of this, which I think encapsulates all of the above. MapApp is an organisation in Haiti that equipped 24 Haitian teenagers with mobile phones. Now, these teenagers know the slum areas better than any visitor ever could, and it tasked them with documenting the dangers. And that could be a health danger, like an unsanitary water source, or it could be a safety danger, like a dark corridor that needs to be traversed at night to get to the bathrooms. And what happened was that this data was then geotagged via the mobile phones and spread out to a network of individuals and organisations to action. And that data gained a lot of momentum. So I really do believe that there's an opportunity for Australians, particularly young Australians, to capitalise on these shifts. So let's break down the core of a social enterprise and align that with some really quintessential Australian characteristics and strengths. So first, you need to build a unique business model, and one that's not afraid to potentially push the boundaries or break the rules. The mantra of the digital economy is move fast and break things, which stems from a Mark Zuckerberg quote. The question then becomes how quickly you can learn from your mistakes and failure and evolve and pivot to create the best organisation that you possibly can. Building a unique business model does take a lot of work and research. It doesn't matter whether you're in education, energy, or eradicating poverty. These days, method trumps resources nearly every time. So, after the devastating Haiti earthquake in 2010, two university students, one from America and myself from Australia, seemed like very unlikely candidates to build an education-based organisation. But there was a desperate need for these resources, and we were nimble enough to get around a lot of the red tape and bureaucracy. So we could, and we did act. So our beginnings were very humble. We started by resourcing these ad hoc schools that were occurring in the hospitals. We then expanded, built out our own network of partner schools and organisations, and then we expanded to Timor-Leste. Bam! Had our first missteps, had our first mistakes, and we pivoted to focus more on the economic benefits of a local supply chain. Then we expanded to Vietnam, pivoted again, and focused on encouraging creativity in the learning process and having a more inclusive supply chain, which involved partnering with disability employment organisations. Pushing the boundaries and breaking the rules is definitely a part of the Australian spirit. Our colonial history has instilled in us, I would say, a healthy irreverence for authority. But more than that, our folklore immortalises people like Ned Kelly in events like the Eureka Stockade. And believe it or not, when building a small social enterprise, how things are normally done is almost an irrelevant concern. So second, you need to create and measure meaningful impact. So traditional charities and philanthropy brings with it traditional expectations of social impact. And this often means that charities like they can't really take risks and can't revolutionise and need to play it safe almost. But playing it safe won't generate the rate of improvement that we actually need. And entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship brings with it new expectations, more freedom, and eventually a scalable impact. So with this shift of power that's occurred, there actually is a new expectation that's become quite dominant, and that's an expectation of transparency. And a lack of transparency can be a very dangerous thing for large organisations. Take, for example, the immense criticism aimed at the Coney 2012 campaign to the lack of financial transparency. Or closer to home, have a look at the boycotts and campaigns against some confectionery companies for the use of palm oil in their products. But I prefer to see this expectation of transparency, this new age of transparency, as a massive opportunity for small enterprises to shine and gain lots of momentum. For the Schoolbag, we began simply just by documenting all the schools that we were working in, the people that worked there, the impact we were having on the children, and then distributing that methodically to our supporters. What this actually meant was that when someone purchased or supported us, they would know exactly what school the supplies went to and how it impacted students there. Right? So having a go is definitely part of the Australian mentality, but it's not just about that, it's about quantifying it and showing it as well. So we've considered ourselves remote for so long that we're really happy to roll up our sleeves, get in, jump in, have a go, take a risk. But in this new age, it's about showing that and demonstrating that in a methodical and transparent manner. Finally, the final step is to find your superstar supporters. So these are the ones that are going to help you shape your brand to begin with and then spread that out. So a global survey undertaken by one of the organizations that I'm involved in revealed that 92% of millennials believe that the world needs to change. And 82% of millennials believe that they have the power to do so. This is just too good of an opportunity to miss, right? And the shift of power has enabled organizations, small organizations, to find their superstar supporters. These 3 people over here or these 10 people over here who will help them craft and then distribute out their message. For the first time in history, a continual dialogue with supporters is possible for a small enterprise. Yes, a like or a click or a tweet might not result in a direct action, but I guarantee that continual engagement absolutely will. So for the Schoolbag, we built a social campaign called Paint, Create, Educate, which involved university students and some others waving around a chalkboard in support of universal primary education. We then followed that up with a school partnership program to engage those students who want to learn more around the issues around education development. Importantly, we took our supporters and we took our mates along with us on the journey. And the Aussie idiom of mateship, I think, perfectly characterises this. We include our mates, we support our mates, we draw on our mates' skills, but importantly, we trust their judgment and we'll follow what they do on social media and in real life. So, Australians have come a long way, I feel, since the days of the Victor lawnmower and the Hills Hoist clothesline, the wine cask, and even the ubiquitous crikey. But I think that these and other much-loved social innovations from Australia illustrate that Australia's in a unique position. When we see the need, we can act, we act in our instincts, and we can compete and lead on a global stage. And the only thing that's changed in this digital era is our ability to reach more people, more effectively, and more personally. So these Australian characteristics, that I'll jump in and have a go, I'll help out our mate, I don't really care that much about authority. These are all the perfect characteristics that are required to build a successful, scalable social enterprise. So what are you waiting for?